What's going on, America? This is Kevin from Kevin's Corner. It's getting a little warm out here. It's getting hot. It's getting hot in here. Yeah, so anyway, George Papadopoulos. Poor George Papadopoulos. Curious George got himself in trouble. So we see now by watching George Papadopoulos earlier today on one of the shows on Fox talking about how he got mixed up in this whole thing. Now, if they're still trying to convince us that just so happened the moon and the stars all came together so George Papadopoulos would be in the right place at the right time, and all of this will fall into place to where the FBI said, you know what? This small, low-level guy named George Papadopoulos just popped up on our radar, and it gives us enough suspicion to launch a full-blown investigation against him and the Trump campaign and go all the way up to the top till we end up with Trump. Not to say, you know what, let's just go and talk to Trump, say, hey man, this guy George Papadopoulos, yeah, we're suspicious about him. Maybe you should keep an eye on him. No, they didn't give Trump that courtesy. So George Papadopoulos today was talking about all these series of strange events that led to him ending up being caught in a perjury trap. So he starts off with the Bernie campaign, no, not the Bernie campaign, with Ben Carson. Then all of a sudden, after he leaves Ben Carson, he joins this company, calls him from, I guess, somewhere in Europe, told him they want him to come on board. He said it looked like a front company, because as soon as he got in, they're like, all right, we're going to go ahead and, elevate you to the director over this, whatever. And he's like, wait a minute, I just got here. I'm a little concerned. I mean, how do you get that high up in the company just by stepping in the door? But nonetheless, he joined the company. Then when he decided to go to the Trump campaign, he said they were a little upset. Now, this company has ties with our FBI. So now all of a sudden, he says he's leaving to go work for Trump. And then they said, well, you can't go, blah, blah, we're going to miss you. But before you go, we want to introduce you to some people. All of a sudden, they introduce him to some key people that later on the FBI brought up. All these people they were trying to introduce him to had connections with our FBI, just by coincidence. Now, you're telling me George Papadopoulos, who's never been to Russia, never spoke to any Russians over there, for whatever reason, they just got a indicator that this man might just, for some reason, be open to suggestion from the Russians, or even be actively looking. Not anything about George Papadopoulos said he's out there snooping around about Putin or Russia, to even give the FBI suspicion to look into him. So we all know what it was. They started this thing. It was so well constructed and put together. All George Papadopoulos was a rat in a maze. See, this is the problem with an intel community that's out of control, rogue, or too powerful. When you are above something, you see everything. When you are right there on ground level, you can't see what's going on. Perfect example of that, when you're up in a plane and you look down, you see the landscape, you see all the cars, you see where the ocean is, you see where the rivers go, all of that stuff. When you're on the ground, all you're doing is going real time. All right, I'm gonna go to that stop sign, make a left, turn right, go here and this and that. You don't see up ahead what somebody above may be able to see. So if I'm walking down the street, make my right, go out to the next stop sign, and a bus is coming, somebody in the plane will see that bus and say, he's about to walk right into a bus. Get out of the way, stop, something like that. But the person on the ground have no idea what's coming up ahead. So when you're that powerful and you got eyes everywhere, you got cameras everywhere, you got resources everywhere, all you're doing is putting a rat in a maze and making sure you block off areas or present things to that rat to force it to go into certain paths. But you know where you're trying to get that rat to go to. That's what George Papadopoulos was. He was the rat. So the rat thinking it's just going about its own business, trying to figure its way through this maze, and it's making its own individual decisions. Like, you know what? I think this would be a good, make a right. Let me see. Hold on. If I go this way, I smell some cheese up this way. I'm going to go this way. And see, the rat goes. Now, the people who set the maze is sitting there looking down at the rat, going, he's going right towards the direction we want him to go towards. We want him to go in this little door right here and get the cheese. That's why we designed the maze set up just the way it is to block him and drive him straight towards the cheese. For him, for George Papa, the CIA and everybody else that was working on this whole project was sending the right stuff to George to drive him to the point where they could say, hey, you look like you was a little too curious about finding out information about Russia. So we had to open up a FISA warrant and start tapping your stuff. That's what it is. They set him up by sending the company to him, sending all these random people to him. And here's poor George Papadopoulos, AKA the rat in the maze, just trying to negotiate his day and his life and trying to make better opportunities for himself. You gonna pay me how much? Great, I'll work for you. Then all of a sudden it's like, hey, one more thing we need you to do. You already working for the company. Come on, fly over here with us. We want to introduce you to these people. Then all of a sudden he's getting emails from all these random people who he found out later had ties to the FBI. Now you're telling me that's not entrapment? You're telling me that George Papadopoulos, on his own accord, just decided, I'm going to start snooping into ways that I could get in touch with the Russian government. No, that's not what happened. He was set up. He was the rat walking around the maze thinking he's making his own decisions, but somebody more powerful than George Papadopoulos was guiding him towards the outcome that they wanted. And that's why this whole thing needs the lid blown completely off of it. Pop the lid right off. I want to look down in there. I want to see what they saw. And I hope Barr goes back all the way through that maze and find out the source, the person who set it all up, and start driving George, poor Georgie, right through the rat's maze, right to the cheese. And I hope the president pardons him, and I hope he get back double for his trouble. Now, you've been listening to Kevin's Corner. Anyway, check out Extreme Tees. They sent me some summer gear. Bam! I love this. Check out the hat, all of that stuff. So if you like what you see, go to the website. The link is in below. And if you like something, click on it and put my name in the promo code Kevin, and you'll get a 20% discount. Also, don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, and the notification button. And check me out every Wednesday night, 7:30, live on YouTube, where I try to make sense out of nonsense. It's hard. It gets harder every day. That's right. And also on my radio blog talk show. And finally, if you want to donate to Kevin and Kevin's Corner, feel free. There's a link in the bottom. And find me on Facebook and Twitter. And we see you next time in Kevin's Corner. And make sure you don't get yourself caught up in no mazes, because you never know who the person is that put the cheese at the end. Dang on it. God bless.